Well, well, well. They've never met anyone like you, and the proof is already showing in the way they reacted the moment you entered their orbit. People don't gather, whisper, plot, and circle around somebody ordinary. They only do that when they've stumbled across someone who threatens the foundation they built their identities on. When your presence alone disrupts the hierarchy they were clinging to, they panic. And panic never hides. It leaks. It spills through their expressions, their sudden unity, their strange glances, their collective tension. That uneasy shift that moved through the group like a current the moment you appeared. That wasn't coincidence. That was recognition. Recognition that you aren't built like them, shaped like them, or controlled the way they are. Recognition that someone different just walked in. Someone rare, stable, self-possessed, unpredictable. And people who depend on predictability for confidence crumble when someone like you enters their space. Let's call it what it is. Their reaction wasn't strength, intelligence, or clever observation. It was fear disguised as unity. It was insecurity trying to look organized. It was a group trying to convince itself that teaming up against you somehow made them powerful. But the deeper truth is this. Groups only attack individuals when that individual carries something none of them possess. Something they can't copy, can't mute, can't control. And that something is you. People don't gang up on the weak. They gang up on the one who exposes their weakness without saying a word. They gang up on the one they can't compete with one-on-one. They gang up on the one whose presence shows everything false in them. They gang up on the one who makes their comfort zone feel like a cage. You became the mirror they tried to avoid. And instead of facing what they lacked, they united in hoping to break what they couldn't understand. Imagine one grounded person entering a room where everyone else built their confidence on noise, pretense, and false approval. The room stiffens, the tension rises, the eyes dart. They feel something shifting. That shift is the truth arriving. And truth makes pretenders uncomfortable. You didn't walk in loud. You didn't walk in demanding attention. You walked in whole. And that wholeness pulled the masks off everyone watching. That's why the group reacted the way they did. That's why the whispers started. That's why the alliances formed quickly and quietly. They weren't aligning against you because you were wrong. They were aligning because you made their act feel fragile. This is the part nobody says out loud, but everybody feels. One real person is more threatening to a group of fake ones than a whole army. They spend their lives performing. You spend your life being. They spend their energy pretending confidence. You move through the world with an ease they can't imitate. And that difference? It eats at them. It activates their insecurity. It wakes up their jealousy. It forces them to see what they are not. And instead of improving themselves, they choose the weaker route, targeting you. Because for them, tearing you down feels easier than admitting they could never measure up. Think about this for a moment. If you were truly nothing, if you posed no threat, if you were irrelevant, why would they gather? Why would they talk in circles? Why would they study your moves? Why would they monitor your behavior like analysts tracking a phenomenon they can't predict? People don't build entire group chats, alliances, or coordinated narratives around someone who doesn't matter. They do it because the person matters too much. Because you hold a power they didn't see coming. Because your presence hit them harder than any confrontation could. Your existence forced them into confession without them realizing it. And that confession came through their behavior, not their words. Let's go deeper. Jealousy in one insecure person is dangerous, but jealousy in a group? That becomes a chain reaction. One small mind starts whispering, projecting, exaggerating. Another small mind picks it up. And before you know it, you're no longer dealing with individual jealousy. You're dealing with a collective insecurity. They fused their weaknesses together and tried to paint it as strength. But here's the reality. Groups built on jealousy aren't strong. They're unstable, they wobble, they crumble, they turn on each other. Because their connection isn't rooted in loyalty or shared values. It's rooted in bitterness and the need to hide their inadequacy behind a target. You were the target they chose because you were the one thing they couldn't neutralize. Your growth triggered their stagnation. Your authenticity revealed their performance. Your confidence exposed their dependency on approval. Your presence highlighted the truth they avoided their entire lives. And truth, when it hits people who built their entire existence on false identities, feels like an attack, even when you didn't lift a finger. Now let's talk about what truly broke them. It wasn't your power. It was your unpredictability. You didn't fit their categories. You didn't fall into their roles. You didn't respond with the reactions they expected. That inability to define you became their obsession. They couldn't label you, they couldn't diminish you, and they couldn't ignore you. That's when insecurity transforms into fixation, and fixation always creates behavior that eventually exposes itself. Imagine a circle of people who think they understand every personality, every tactic, every strategy. Then someone like you arrives, someone whose internal world is entirely different from theirs, someone who doesn't play for approval, someone who doesn't bend for validation, someone who doesn't operate from fear, someone who isn't intimidated by crowds or desperate for acceptance, someone whose presence alone carries weight. You disrupted their entire hierarchy without intending to. And when people who depend on hierarchy feel exposed, they attack the one who breaks it. That's what happened here. Not because you did something wrong, but because you existed without needing what they cling to. Watch closely how their collapse begins. It starts quietly. The tension between them increases. Their unity begins to feel forced. Their stories start contradicting each other. The cracks reveal themselves through awkward energy, misplaced aggression, subtle panic. Because when a group is built on jealousy instead of truth, it can only stand for so long before the weight of its own weakness breaks its structure. They thought targeting you would make them powerful. But targeting you only highlighted what they feared, that you stand stronger alone than they ever will together. Let me ask you this. Did you beg for their approval? No. Did you chase their acceptance? No. Did you respond to their attacks with desperation? No, that right there is the difference. You didn't rely on numbers. You didn't rely on alliances. You didn't rely on fake bonds. You relied on yourself. And that kind of independence is the loudest threat to people who only feel strong when they stand in groups. Independence exposes dependency. Confidence exposes pretenders. Self-sufficiency exposes their need for crowds to feel relevant. Every move they made, trying to undermine you, wasn't strategic. It was reactive. Their unity wasn't power. It was insecurity. Their effort to pull you down didn't elevate them. It exposed their fear of being seen next to someone operating on a level they never reached. They weren't fighting you. They were fighting the truth you carry. The truth that one solid person can outshine a room full of noisy ones. The truth that authenticity demolishes pretense. The truth that your presence disrupts everything counterfeit around you. And now, something interesting is happening. The group that stood together is losing balance. The unity is dissolving. The whispers are shifting inward. The tension is turning on itself, because groups built on insecurity eventually collapse from internal pressure. They can't sustain the energy required to keep a false narrative alive. They can't maintain loyalty when their foundation is jealousy. They can't hold the mask forever. You were never their real problem. Their real problem was themselves. You just exposed it by existing. You didn't swing a blow. You didn't start a war. You didn't retaliate. Yet the war they tried to start is already collapsing on their side. That's the part that drives them insane. They aimed at you, but the consequences landed on them. They tried to dim you, but all they did was reveal their own shadows. They tried to isolate you, not realizing isolation sharpens people like you. They tried to bury you, not knowing you were the one thing built with roots deep enough to rise through pressure. And now comes the breaking point, the moment where their jealousy turns inward. When people can't crack you, they crack each other. When they can't control you, they start controlling one another. When they can't dominate you, they turn their dominance into paranoia. The group that once seemed united is now filled with side conversations, hidden doubts, private suspicions, because insecure people don't trust each other. They don't even trust themselves. And when they fail to break the person they targeted, they begin breaking the people closest to them. You stood strong, you stayed grounded, you remained yourself. And that stability is what threatens the entire structure they built. Because the one they thought would crumble is the one still rising, and the ones who thought they would rise by attacking you are the ones sinking under the weight of their own actions. This is only the beginning. What's about to unfold next will show you exactly why the universe didn't let them succeed. Because their downfall is already in motion, and your rise is only getting stronger. The more they tried to break you, the more they ended up revealing who they are. And the more you remained unshaken, the more their unity began to dissolve. This is the stage where their energy starts contradicting their narratives. Their actions begin to betray their intentions. The confidence they projected starts flickering, slipping through the cracks of their expressions. They thought they understood you, thought they could predict you, thought they could strategize around someone they never met before. But you weren't a personality they'd encountered. You were a presence, and presence is something insecure people cannot explain, cannot categorize, cannot beat. That's why they looked for numbers. That's why they leaned on each other. That's why they needed reinforcement. Because your existence made them confront a reality they didn't have the tools to handle. And here's the twist they never calculated. When a group aligns out of jealousy, their unity depends on you failing. The moment you don't fall, their bond fractures. The moment you don't break, their conviction weakens. Their storyline collapses. Their roles lose purpose. Because a group built on targeting someone else doesn't have a shared foundation, they have a shared obsession. And obsessions shatter the moment the target refuses to collapse on cue. That's what you did. You didn't collapse. You didn't fold. You didn't react the way they hoped. You kept moving in your own lane, at your own pace, with your own grounding. And that alone destabilized everything they constructed. Think about the psychology here. Jealous groups don't attack because they're strong. They attack because one person made them feel collectively insecure. That's why their behavior feels frantic. That's why their strategies feel rushed. That's why they overreact to everything you do. They aren't responding to what you said or did. They're responding to the discomfort you trigger inside them. You represent something their identities cannot tolerate. A person who doesn't need validation, doesn't need attention, doesn't need approval. Someone who stands without relying on the opinions of the crowd. That independence is something they never built internally. And when people who depend on external reinforcement meet someone who stands solid alone, their foundation trembles. Here's where everything flips. The group is losing momentum. The individuals inside it are starting to feel the pressure. Their confidence is thinning out. Their unity is weakening. Because the energy they invested in chasing your downfall is backfiring. They poured their time into watching you, tracking you, reacting to you. But you kept moving forward. You kept building, you kept elevating. And now the gap between you and them has stretched so far, they can't pretend anymore. They see the difference, others see the difference, and nothing threatens jealous people more than the realization that their efforts changed nothing in your world, but everything in theirs. Now pay attention to the subtle signs of their collapse. Look at the way their tone changes when your name comes up. Look at the way they avoid eye contact when confronted with their own behavior. Look at the way they don't defend each other the way they used to. Look at how they retreat into themselves, trying to rewrite the story after the damage is done. These signs are the cracks forming in the foundation of their alliance. This is how groups built on jealousy fall, quietly, internally, through doubt, guilt, contradiction, and scrambled attempts to shift blame. They're no longer united. They're just trying to keep their individual reputations from sinking. This is the moment where the tables turn without you lifting a finger. Because the more you rise, the more obvious their intentions become. The more stable you remain, the more unstable they look. The more natural your strength appears, the more forced their performance becomes. You didn't expose them. They exposed themselves by acting out of insecurity in the presence of someone they couldn't influence. That's the cleanest downfall, when people reveal who they are through their own behavior. Let's go deeper. When someone like you enters their world, someone rare, grounded, unbothered, they don't see another person. They see a threat to the identity they built. They see a comparison they can't win. They see a level they cannot access. And instead of growing, they choose the shortcut of jealousy. Instead of improving themselves, they choose the downward spiral of resentment. Instead of elevating, they choose targeting. But the shortcut always destroys the one who takes it. Because jealousy may start as a spark, but when a group feeds it, it turns into a fire that burns inward. First, they aren't just collapsing because of you. They're collapsing because jealousy consumes the person who carries it before it ever reaches the target. And the more they pushed against you, the more they pushed themselves into exposure. Every whisper, every lie, every attempt to minimize your presence only highlighted how much you stood out. Ordinary people don't inspire coordinated efforts. Regular people don't cause entire groups to react. But you did. That tells you everything. You weren't the problem. You were the revelation. The revelation that they weren't as confident, grounded, or united as they pretended. When someone real walks in, the artificial always crumbles. And that's what's happening now. Now comes the part they never planned for. The consequences of their own actions. The weight of their jealousy is turning into pressure. Their alliances are turning into suspicion. Their conversations are turning into arguments. Their unity is turning into fractures. because the truth always eventually reveals the weakness of any structure built on insecurity. They attacked you thinking it would elevate them, but now they're realizing it exposed them. They tried to control your reputation, but now they're losing control over their own. They wanted you to seem small, but now they're shrinking in plain view. The beauty of all of this is simple. You didn't have to retaliate. Your strength was in your restraint. Your rise was the answer. Your consistency was the proof. And your existence alone was the lesson they were never ready to face. You were not their enemy. You were their reminder, a reminder of the confidence they pretended to have, a reminder of the authenticity they lacked, a reminder of the wholeness they couldn't imitate, and reminders like you aren't forgotten, they're feared. And when fear builds quietly in insecure people, it never stays quiet for long. It morphs, it twists, it changes shape, until it becomes the very force that destroys the ones who nurture it. That's exactly what's happening to that jealous group right now. The same people who linked arms to target you are now slowly drifting apart, trying to distance themselves from the chaos they created together. Their unity is no longer unity. It's self-preservation disguised as distance. They're trying to protect their own image because they finally realized something painful. Their behavior didn't make you look bad. It made them look exposed. It made them look threatened. It made them look weak. They wanted to stain your name, but all they did was reveal the insecurity they carried like a second skin. This is where the downfall becomes unavoidable. You can almost sense it happening. They're no longer looking at you. They're looking at each other. They're no longer whispering about you. They're whispering about each other. They're no longer strategizing. They're panicking. Because the truth has shifted. You're no longer the center of their conversations out of jealousy. Now you're the center of their consequences, and consequences never miss their target. They hit exactly where pressure is weakest. In their case, it's inside the group itself. You see, groups built on jealousy are always temporary. Their glue is resentment, and resentment dries out faster than loyalty ever could. When the person they targeted refuses to fall, their purpose disappears. And when their purpose disappears, so does their connection. It doesn't matter how convincingly they tried to play the part of a united front. It doesn't matter how much noise they made to appear powerful. Noise fades. The truth doesn't. And the truth is, they were never united to rise. They were united to hide from their own inadequacy. When insecurity is shared, it feels like belonging. But when the target survives, that shared insecurity becomes embarrassment. And embarrassment is something jealous people can never tolerate. Watch how fast the blame begins to move. One person speaks out of frustration. Another slips in discomfort. Another contradicts a story they shared weeks ago. Another tries to quietly exit the narrative to protect themselves. That's the pattern. At first they whisper together, then they whisper about each other, then they separate, then they suffer alone. Because jealousy might be contagious, but so is guilt. And guilt corrodes bonds faster than jealousy ever builds them. The irony is that the entire group thought they were studying you. They thought they were analyzing you, observing you, planning around you. But now the world sees the truth. They weren't studying you. They were being studied through you. Your composure showed the contrast between genuine strength and fake confidence. Your calm presence highlighted how fragile their identities were. Your authenticity made their performance look desperate. And the more they tried to lower your value, the more you elevated theirs without effort. because their downfall became the stage that proved your resilience. The next phase is the most revealing. This is the stage where you don't even have to look in their direction for the cracks to deepen. Their guilt grows heavier when the target isn't giving them anything to feed off. Their fear grows sharper when the person they targeted remains unaffected. Their insecurities grow louder when the person they underestimated continues rising. That combination creates chaos inside a fragile group. And chaos inside a fragile group always ends with someone being exposed as the real culprit. This is when each member starts rewriting the story to protect themselves individually. This is when someone finally admits, even if not publicly, we shouldn't have done that. This is when someone else starts to distance themselves from the ones who were loudest. This is when those who were silent start feeling uncomfortable, being associated with the loud ones. This is when the loud ones begin to panic, because without group support, they know they cannot stand alone. The masks they wore so confidently begin slipping, and underneath those masks is the insecurity they've been trying to hide from the world. Let's bring this into focus. The group is not collapsing because of you. It's collapsing because jealousy cannot survive truth. Fake alliances cannot survive exposure. False confidence cannot survive comparison. And insecure people cannot survive the presence of someone who carries what they lack. You didn't attack them. You didn't retaliate. You didn't even participate. You simply continued being who you are. And that alone was powerful enough to trigger their downfall. Every time they underestimated you, they weakened their own position. Every time they lied about you, they tangled themselves deeper in contradictions. Every time they tried to match your strength, they revealed how far behind they truly were. And now they're sitting with the consequences they created, consequences you never needed to enforce. People around them can see the shift. The energy they once carried now feels shaky. The certainty they pretended to have is dissolving. The confidence they flaunted has turned into discomfort, because when people act from jealousy, they eventually expose themselves without anyone's help. You are the reason their story is unraveling, not because you fought back, but because your existence made their truth unavoidable. You showed them what real strength looks like. You showed them what real self-respect looks like. You showed them what it means to rise without needing an audience. And the more you grew, the more they shrank, until eventually the gap between you and them became impossible to ignore. Now look at where you stand, unshaken, evolving, still rising with a pace they never saw coming. Your journey didn't slow down, it accelerated. And that acceleration is what broke them. They weren't prepared for someone who doesn't respond to their tactics. They weren't prepared for someone whose worth isn't tied to their approval. They weren't prepared for someone who doesn't collapse under pressure. They weren't prepared for someone like you, someone they had never met before. And the part that will forever haunt them is this: they could have simply walked away. But their jealousy made them stay. Their insecurity made them watch. Their obsession made them act. And now their actions are turning into their punishment. You're not just rising, you're rising while their group is falling apart in real time. And deep down, every single one of them knows why. Their downfall isn't an accident. It's the result of targeting the one person they should have never touched. Because when a jealous group tries to break someone they don't understand, they only end up breaking themselves. And that's exactly where the story turns into something poetic. The very energy they tried to weaponize against you is now cutting through the walls they built around their own comfort. They didn't realize that by choosing you as their target, they placed themselves under a spotlight they weren't prepared to stand in. Every intention they had, every action they took, every scheme they tried to execute has circled back and settled at their doorstep, revealing the exact truth they wanted to hide, that they were never dealing with someone ordinary. They were dealing with someone they couldn't read, couldn't predict, couldn't intimidate, and absolutely couldn't destroy. Now comes the most powerful phase. This is where the consequences become undeniable. This is where the narrative shifts from petty jealousy to full exposure. This is where people start seeing what you've known all along, that everything they did was rooted in fear, not power. They didn't rise because of their unity. They united because they saw something rising inside you that they couldn't match. And now that their attempts to sabotage you have failed, their behavior is turning into confession. Confession of their insecurity. Confession of their envy. Confession of their inability to stand alone without using you as their distraction. Watch closely. This is the phase where they start realizing the weight of what they created. They didn't just attack you. They attacked their own stability without knowing it. When a group builds its identity around trying to bring one person down, they unknowingly tie their entire emotional equilibrium to that person's reaction. When you didn't react, their equilibrium shattered. When you didn't fold, their plan crumbled. When you didn't lose focus, their unity dissolved. And that's where the true collapse begins. Not on the outside, but internally, where insecurity morphs into frustration, frustration turns into blame, and blame begins to eat through whatever little structure they thought they had. You want to know what's ironic? They targeted you because they thought you were the easy one. They assumed your quiet strength was softness. They mistook your groundedness for vulnerability. They believed your refusal to play their games meant you didn't know how to fight. But they never stopped to ask the real question: why does someone remain centered when surrounded by noise? Because only people who've already weathered storms within themselves can remain untouched by the drama outside them. Only people who carry their worth internally can walk through environments where others borrow their worth from attention. Only people who are self-contained survive situations that would drown those who depend on external reinforcement. You weren't the easy one. You were the one they underestimated, and underestimation is the seed of downfall in every jealous group. It blinds them, it tricks them into thinking they're dealing with someone predictable. It convinces them that they can provoke you into reacting the way they want. But you never reacted. Not because you were afraid, not because you were unsure, not because you were intimidated. You didn't react because you were operating from a different center entirely. You weren't fighting them externally. You were outgrowing them internally. An internal elevation always exposes external pretenders. Now the entire dynamic has flipped. You've outgrown the environment they tried to trap you in. You've evolved past the conversations they used to weaponize. You've stepped into a version of yourself that they never thought you'd reach. And that evolution is the very thing tearing through the group like a silent reset. You didn't need revenge. You didn't need confrontation. You didn't need validation. Your growth became the confrontation. Your maturity became the retaliation. Your rise became the response. And nothing crushes jealous people more than being forced to watch the person they tried to break walk away, stronger, calmer, and more powerful than ever. Truth is, these people never understood what they were dealing with. They thought you were quiet because you lacked confidence. But you were quiet because you didn't need attention to feel relevant. They thought you were distant because you were weak. But you were distant because their energy didn't match your level. They thought you were unaffected because you were numb. But you were unaffected because you had already learned how to operate beyond their reach. They mistook your composure for emptiness, not knowing composure is the loudest sign of a person who knows exactly who they are and exactly what they carry. And what you carry is something they cannot imitate, cannot recreate, cannot steal, and cannot dilute. You carry a kind of alignment that comes from real self-understanding. You carry the type of presence that cannot be manufactured. You carry the kind of grounding that people try to study but never fully learn. You carry the type of inner strength that threatens people who built themselves out of comparison. And that's the part that triggered them more than anything. They weren't fighting your actions. They were fighting your energy. And energy is something you cannot disguise. Theirs felt fragile. Yours felt undeniable, and denial can only last so long before the truth forces its way through. Let's talk about the deeper psychology behind this collapse. When insecure people meet someone they cannot influence, something inside them rebels. They become restless. They become irrational. They become reactive. They try to create a version of you that makes sense to them because the real version challenges their beliefs about themselves. So they gossip, they lie, they exaggerate, they invent narratives. But those narratives always collapse when the person they're trying to distort stands firm in their identity. And that's exactly what happened with you. Their stories shattered against the reality of your character. Their lies couldn't hold under the weight of your authenticity. Their projections couldn't survive next to your consistency. The gap between who you are and who they told others you were became too wide to maintain. And now, everyone around them can feel the shift. People sense the tension. People notice the cracks. People observe the inconsistencies. Because groups built on jealousy might start loud, but they always end quiet. Quiet from exhaustion, quiet from guilt, quiet from embarrassment, quiet from the realization that they never had control in the first place. They weren't shaping your story. You were shaping theirs. You became the main character in their downfall without ever stepping into their narrative intentionally. Now let's focus on you. Look at where you stand. Look at how far you've come. Look at the level of emotional discipline you developed. Look at the control you've gained over your reactions. Look at the way your presence has sharpened, solidified, strengthened. You didn't just survive the targeting, you transformed through it. You didn't just come out on the other side, you came out elevated. That's what makes you someone they've never met before. Not because you're perfect, not because you're invincible, but because you carry a kind of self-mastery that can't be undone by external noise. You see, the chosen ones of the world aren't the loudest, the flashiest, or the most dramatic. They're the ones who endure quietly, grow steadily, and rise consistently. They're the ones who don't need to broadcast their strength, because their presence reveals it automatically. They're the ones who don't need to prove themselves, because their life becomes the proof. That's you. You are the proof that self-understanding outlasts jealousy. You're the proof that inner grounding outshines outer noise. You're the proof that real power doesn't need a performance. It just needs a consistent heartbeat and a direction. Now look back at the jealous group one more time. You'll notice something important. They didn't fall because you attacked them. They fell because they were never built to stand. Their structure was temporary. Their unity was fragile. Their motives were shallow. Their intentions were weak. And weak intentions collapse under the pressure of real strength. You didn't destroy them. You simply outlasted them. And outlasting insecure people is the most powerful form of victory there is. This is your confirmation, not just that their downfall was deserved, but that your rise was necessary. You weren't supposed to shrink around them. You weren't supposed to dim yourself to make them comfortable. You weren't supposed to question your worth because small minds couldn't see it clearly. You weren't supposed to lower your frequency to match people who didn't respect themselves enough to grow. You were supposed to rise. You were supposed to evolve. You were supposed to separate. You were supposed to become the version of yourself that leaves jealous groups speechless, confused, and exposed. And now that you've risen, something irreversible has happened. They can no longer deny who you are. They can no longer pretend they don't see your strength. They can no longer minimize your presence. They can no longer mislabel your character. They can no longer reduce your impact. Because once someone like you emerges fully, there is no going back. The world sees you. You see yourself. And your enemies see exactly what they tried to bury: your potential. Their downfall was the result of their jealousy. Your rise is the result of your resilience, and the contrast between those two paths will follow them forever. Every time they remember what they tried to do, they'll also remember that it didn't work. Every time they think about the effort they wasted trying to undermine you, they'll remember that you kept rising anyway. Every time they recall their attempts, they'll feel the reminder of your strength echoing through their own collapse. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just a story about a jealous group going down. It's the story of someone rising above an environment that wasn't built for their growth. Someone stepping into a version of themselves that others weren't prepared to witness. Someone becoming the very person people underestimated. Someone proving that no amount of envy can block what is meant to rise. They targeted you because they didn't understand you, but now they understand one thing clearly. You were never the one who needed protection. They were the ones who needed distance. This was their downfall, and this is your rise, a rise they'll never forget, because they've never met anyone like you.